At times, my critiques of femininity, prostitution, pornography, or self-sexualization are met with claims that I am ignoring that some women choose to participate in these industries. Therefore, they argue, as a feminist I cannot critique them. Anything a woman chooses is a feminist act, they claim, because she is a woman.
I thought feminism is about women choosing. If they choose... Shut up. Shut up. Yes, on the surface, feminism can be interpreted as women having choice and agency. But how are they able to have that choice and agency is through what? Liberation from the patriarchy. Alright? Choosing to serve the patriarchy isn't feminist. That is not feminist. It's a choice, but it's not a feminist choice. I feel like a lot of people want to be justified in their decisions by saying it's a feminist choice. You know, feminism's about choice, to justify behaviours that aren't particularly feminist, but they want to do it anyways. And that's fine. But choosing to work for free in the domestic sphere is not feminist. That is the antithesis to feminism. I am not saying that being a child, like a caregiver or doing domestic labour is inherently anti-feminist, but doing it for, you know, in the patriarchal structure, that is not feminist. Because feminism in the eye of pop culture, in the way it's presented in media, is either seen as crazy, like hairy armpit women who hate men, or, you know, feminism's about choice. And that's the only thing. The hairy armpit women aren't ever seen as, you know, their point of view is never respected, but the it's about choice ones always are given some degree of respect, because that choice always ends up serving the patriarchy, if you know what I mean. And this lack of understanding leads to people having such a false perception of what feminism is, because they only understand it from what they see in like TV, film, the news, etc., and not what feminism actually is, because they don't care to learn about it. So yeah, maybe read a book before asking, what's with all the judgment, dummy?
Choosing something does not make it safe. I can choose to smoke and drink and acknowledge the ways that those substances harm my body, but that does not negate the risk of cancer or liver damage. Additionally, the concept of free will here ignores the role of socialization. The societal pressures to act, look, or think a certain way are often covert. Under the influence of outside processes, from family, religion, media, to friends, no choice is made in a vacuum. When a woman looks back on her makeup looks from the early 2000s, the trends only seem embarrassing and cringe in retrospect. Culturally, the demands for behavior based on one's sex shift. Now, BBLs, self-sexualization, extreme control of one's image are all normalized, and through a misunderstanding of the concept of socialization and the goal of feminism, are all being touted as feminist choices. The point of feminism is women's liberation from the patriarchy. By ignoring or gilding the cage, it is not dismantled. It is only made more palatable. The denial of biological sex has further made it difficult to accept that personal grievances are not individual, but experiences that many women face. When it is accepted that women as a group suffer in ways that are specifically tied to being female, only then is it possible to enact wide-scale change.
The only difference between this state in which many women live, of being different persona, and multiple personality disorder, is that we are co-conscious. We know what we're doing in each state. But it is almost as artificial to put on what society wants us to be and play roles of being a sex object, the perfect mother, the perfect whatever. And the big downside here is we may lose track of who we really are as unique human beings inside. If the artificiality, the role, the stereotype, the sex goddess is what you are mostly rewarded for, it's extremely difficult to let it go. You have very little assurance that you're going to be loved and salaried as your real self, as your unique underneath self. There isn't even now much evidence of female human beings being rewarded for that, though there is lots more. But there was much less in the 50s.
Part of the problem was identified by Andrea Dworkin a very long time ago. To paraphrase, the agony of being aware of how ubiquitous and inescapable misogyny is unbearable for most women. It is from this perspective that many women have decided to retransition or to leave radical feminist spaces. Being accepted by wider society seems easier than being aware, fighting it, and being isolated in turn. It is from this desire to protect oneself from the realization that there is no way to escape that she chose it comes into play. Now, to be clear, the existence of a small group which enjoys or chooses to participate in prostitution, porn, or BDSM does not erase the large-scale trends of trafficking and abuse. The high-class call girl or OnlyFans woman is not having an experience which is representative of the average prostitution experience. A few highly paid women create the fantasy of financial success in an easier manner than working. Just as many trends trickle down from a select few to a wider audience for lower-class women to mimic.
Do I actually make good money doing OF? Curious. This screenshot is for you, and it's also for the people that keep asking me why I show my camel toe on TikTok and why I flash my pants and other things like that. It's because I make this kind of money, and I would say that's pretty good money for someone my age. I had a really good month in April. Hopefully I'll get back up there. I just haven't been making very many new TikToks recently because I've been so busy. But yeah, in an answer to your question, yeah, I make really good money from OF.
The average OnlyFans girl is making between $150 to $180 a month and is at high risk for extortion and abuse. As reported on socialweb.com, the top 1% of creators earn about a third of all the money on the platform. Meanwhile, creators in the top 10% take home nearly 75% of the total OnlyFans earnings. Additionally, having created pornographic content can severely limit job prospects in the future. While some might view the OnlyFans income as being a better trade-off, as one ages and gains more experience in the porn industry, their value decreases.
This makes me so sad and so angry at OnlyFans. OnlyFans is so gross because it literally weaseled its way into these feminist spaces and convinced women that it is somehow empowering for them to sell their body online with false promises they're gonna make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's not the reality of it. It's basically a sex work pyramid scheme. In what other business, when the market is so flooded, would you continue to try to recruit young women? And don't get me wrong, I have no problem with sex work, but it is not supposed to be this common, especially not amongst young women. And I hate to say this, but this is the opposite of feminism. This is quite literally the objectification of women. You can have us at a price. What? And I don't know why I feel like I'm so early on this train, but I don't see a lot of people talking about it. Which is, again, why I'm so proud of this girl for posting about it.
Here's why starting an OnlyFans was the worst decision I made in my life. I did not realize that I was literally selling parts of my soul and the money could have never made it worth it. I just wish that someone would have warned me and told me that I was going to be later experiencing PTSD from the sexual trauma and the experiences that I was subjecting myself to on a daily basis. I did not know that I would later need to be in trauma counseling. It brought me into way darker places than I ever could have imagined, and I never want to go back there. I wish I could go back in time to who I was before I started doing all that stuff and just tell myself that the money is not worth it. Keep your happiness. And that's all I want to tell any girl who's thinking about starting an account. I just hope I can save even just one girl from going through the pain and the trauma that I am now going through because I subjected myself to that for the last couple years.
This is the case for streetwalkers or in-person prostitutes. Sex buyers specifically seek out young people, which is an inverse of any other industry, where experience increases the value of labor. In the case of prostitution, this is because the labor is not for sale, you are. The legalization of prostitution feeds trafficking, as there is always a higher demand for prostitutes than there is a supply. Often, children, poverty-stricken, immigrant, and other vulnerable populations are targeted for this purpose. Children in foster care often end up in prostitution, creating a cycle of exploitation. The enjoyment or choice of a small population of women to engage in prostitution, digitally or in person, does not make it safe, nor is their enjoyment more important than the safety and rights of women as a class. If one woman is for sale, all women are for sale. If sex can be purchased, then sexual harassment is a job offer. Despite how liberals like to present it, so-called sex work is not work, nor is it enjoyable. The girl who claims that pornography is empowering or fun likely hasn't been doing it very long, is lying to herself or the audience to keep her paycheck, or is in a highly paid exception.
But all I was completely 100% sure of was I don't want to do porn. I've never wanted to do porn. I'm never going to go back to that. And standing firm on my ground in my morals, in my boundaries, in just everything, that was like the tiniest glimmer of confidence starting to grow. Standing firm in my boundaries, even if I didn't know that was a boundary.
People don't last long in the porn industry. Those who enter it tend to be from vulnerable populations too, as one recent study found that during childhood, performers were more likely to have experienced rape, poverty, or have been placed in foster care. They were also likely to have been forced into sex as adults, reported living in poverty, and having experienced domestic violence within the past 12 months more often. Overall, the study finds significantly worse mental health in performers and higher rates in self-reported depression compared to other women of similar age. The average time spent in the industry is 2 years. Stars are routinely raped or forced into scenarios they don't want to be in. Suicides are common, and in the aftermath of a life cut short, men flock to Pornhub to find videos to whack off to of the dead girl. Not only is this detrimental to the performers themselves, but it adds to the hypersexualization of our culture that is leading girls and young women to be more oppressed, anxious, and uncomfortable with their bodies than their male counterparts. As Gail Dines notes, porn culture doesn't only affect men. It also changes the way women and girls think about their bodies, their sexuality, and their relationships. Every group that has fought for liberation understands that media images are part and parcel of the systematic dehumanization of an oppressed group. The more porn images filter into mainstream culture, the more girls and women are stripped of full human status and reduced to sex objects. This has a terrible effect on girls' sexual identity because it robs them of their own sexual desire. The presentation of female participation in sexual activities is meant to sell the lie that fulfilling the sexual object men desire is somehow a form of power, rather than a source of short-lived acceptance. The often brought up gotcha of a female dom is a minority, as the majority of women involved in BDSM are subs. Regardless, she is still a male fantasy being used for his sexual benefit. The BDSM community seeks to normalize sexual violence as if abuse is not abuse if she consented to it. In the same way that agreeing to be cannibalized is not enough to prevent a murder charge, allowing a partner to abuse her does not make the abuse any less physically dangerous. Another common argument is that it is a coping mechanism. Now, removing the focus from the woman in these scenarios, what is the man getting out of it? Pretending to rape you, hitting you, strangling you, acting out pedophilic fantasies, even if any of this was beneficial for working through trauma. All it does is normalize the dehumanization of women and sexual violence. He is actively getting off on beating you, on pretending to rape you. All the while, orgasm solidifies the link between these actions and sex. Even if you choose to partake in your own dehumanization, it does not end in the bedroom. These attitudes accompany him on his day-to-day and towards other women. I do not care if an individual woman enjoys being objectified, abused, or otherwise harmed. Her choice does not matter to me. Even if she doesn't care, I care for how it will harm her, just as I care about the safety and dignity of my fellow women as the driving force of my feminism. It's primitive feminism. If it hurts women, it's bad. Prostitution, porn, and BDSM hurt women. Thus, I oppose it. It's that simple. This, dear viewers, is where we part. I basically get comments every so often about, well, someone enjoyed BDSM, or he's just enjoying having hormones. I give no shits. I don't care. You can enjoy doing harmful things, and it doesn't make them less harmful because you chose to do them. The idea of free will somehow counteracting the harmful effects of anything you do is so stupid, and it doesn't count in any other scenario. Like, me deciding to smoke does not make smoking not harmful to me. Saying, yeah, well, I chose to let him act out a rape fantasy on me. I chose to let him strangle me. You're still getting strangled. Your choice is meaningless. And I don't care about your ability to make that choice when the majority of women do not have the ability to make that choice. You're in a privileged position if you're able to say, oh, I enjoyed it, I chose it. I don't care. Because you are a tiny, tiny minority, and you are delusional. You will one day wake up, hopefully, and realize that you're being harmed. And until that point, there are millions of women who are not able to choose, who are being actively harmed. So no, I don't care about the high class or digital creators who want to create pornography or prostitute themselves, because they're a minority, and most people who are in prostitution are there because they were funneled into it, like the foster care children, or forced into it. I don't care if you enjoy it. I don't. Anyhow, if you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.